the European Union has proposed a legislation for regulating artificial intelligence. This is the first in the world. Now, what does this regulation entail? This regulation will not only hold private parties accountable, but also governments will be held accountable for the way in which they utilize artificial intelligence. Now, artificial intelligence can be a boon and a bane. And this legislation ensures that while artificial intelligence flourishes, it does not curb people's rights or liberties. An example of how this legislation ought to do so is by ensuring that it puts a ban on any sort of use of facial recognition AI en masse unless it is used by authorities for issues like terrorist attacks. There are pros and cons to this facial recognition tool used via AI. Pros will include photo segregation. This is a very common thing that Google Photos does. If you look at your Google Photos app, it will always ask of you if two people, they'll show you two photos and they'll say whether or not it's the same person. Through that, they segregate identities within your phone system itself. That's a pros of photo recognition. However, these are few in number. There are many utilizers of facial recognition that are done by authorities, especially in the United States, that is currently seeking multiple criticisms of it. An example could be what happened to Edward Harvey, who's a 61-year-old man who was wrongly identified by a facial recognition security tool which was placed in one of the shops. He was identified as one of the thieves and put in jail for 2 weeks. He was also assaulted while he was in jail. However, it was later realized that the facial recognition tool had malfunctioned and therefore had incorrectly identified him. There are multiple studies that also state that there are biases that are placed in facial recognition tools. For example, in the US, multiple such facial recognition tools have been examined to state that they have a bias against the blacks. And more often than not, they identify a black person as a thief. Further, facial recognition tools, if used in India, could also lead to such problems. Therefore, it ensures that such techniques or technologies that have been previously criticized for being racist or for having certain biases inundated in the system itself will no longer be used to ensure that they are segregating the public. With that, it has also now devised certain categories for the risk aversiveness of artificial intelligence mechanisms. An example of that is high-risk AI. High-risk AI could be self-driven cars. If it is a high-risk AI, they have to ensure that the technique that is being utilized is already available in public domain. Further, all the certificates required for such high-risk AI have already been taken. Now let's look at medium-risk AIs. Medium-risk AIs can be, let's say, a chat box. So there are multiple websites across the internet now that utilize AI-driven chatbots. What they do in such a situation is they ensure that they mention while such a chatbot is being utilized that it is being driven or run by artificial intelligence. This sort of a caveat is compulsory as per this EU legislation for such website to provide. These are certain steps that are being taken in the field of artificial intelligence, which will ensure that while artificial intelligence may be the future, it will not create any sort of disasters for the human rights involved. Thank you.